The Power Play Post Show is on the air, covering minor league hockey since 2003, and now covering the Binghamton Black Bears with news, reactions, and in-depth interviews only heard here. And now, from the Box Studios in Kirkwood, New York, here are your hosts of the Power Play Post Show, Bob Howard and Taylor Welch.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. This is the show for September 21st, 2025. It is Sunday, but we have a special podcast here for you. This is season 15, episode number 6, and episode number 520 in the long-running podcast that is the Power Play Post Show. I am your host, Bob Howard, and she is
Taylor Welch.
And we, again, have a really special podcast for you. You're going to hear an interview with Josh Fletcher, and we are going to give you our thoughts about what he said. He's a very good communicator, very good talker. He's one of my favorite guys to get onto the show, no matter what it's about, because it's always a pretty good conversation that I had with him. But we're going to get into the must-reads, and then we are going to talk about the open house, and then we'll get into the interview with Josh Fletcher. All right, the Power Play Post Show is available on all major podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on your favorite app, and don't forget to subscribe. And if you're on YouTube, hit the notification bell, and so you'll get notified when this comes around the newest episodes. Join the conversation on Facebook. Just search Power Play Post Show and become part of our community. Be sure to like, comment, and share our latest episodes with your friends. Looking for everything Binghamton Hockey? Visit binghamtonhockey.net. Go to your go-to source for stats, history, and all things Binghamton Hockey. And coming up on this episode of the Power Play Post Show, we already talked about it, but he is what he calls a power forward, Josh Fletcher. It's what he really classifies himself as, not an enforcer, but as a power forward, because the enforcer role is really being eliminated from the game. So, Taylor, let's talk. Give me, just to kind of tease a little bit to the fans, a little bit what they're about to hear when it comes to this interview with Josh Fletcher. Give me your high level, your basic impression of this interview.
I honestly, it's similar in a sense to the way that Kyle Steffen talks in his interview about like retiring and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's a lot about the hockey player mindset and just everything that comes along with it. And the way that these guys talk about their love for the game, I think it's just amazing.
It is. It really is. And I think people are going to really enjoy it. And we're going to delve into a lot of what he talks about. I have about 12 points or 12 notes. I think you took some notes in a notebook, right?
I did.
Yeah. So
2 pages worth.
2 pages worth. 2 pages worth. Oh my gosh. All right. So let's talk a little bit. I did see some pictures of the open house on Friday night. It looks like it was a success. I did see, probably 4 or 5 players there. Maybe there was more. I'm not sure. Who I saw there was obviously Tyson Kirkby. He now lives here. I think he's already buying a house and has a farm and, is raising chickens as well here in Binghamton, as he's become basically a mainstay here. I saw Mac Jansen. I saw Dan Weber. Is there anybody else I'm missing? I'm sure you saw a few of the pictures too, right?
I did see some of the pictures, and I saw the ones that you're talking about currently. I'm not sure who else I remember seeing, if I remember anybody.
Well, yeah, but it's still a good thing. Obviously, I saw a picture of the newly engraved plaque. I did see that some people put some pictures up of the new banners that are in the stands. I will be honest, Taylor, and this is something that I'm a traditionalist. I love history. The old banners, I need to know where they are. I need to know if they're going to be hung up in the arena. There was some talk when I talked to Andreas about it, that there might be a place that they're going to put the old banners up, the old Binghamton Rangers and the Dusters and the Whalers. I hope they don't just get packed away or given away to somebody. I hope they go in the arena somewhere because they are part of the history. And there's only really 2 places in the world for Binghamton hockey history in the Hall of Fame, and that's either at the arena or on binghamtonhockey.net. That's pretty much it. That's where you're going to get all the information, and you're going to see the things or physically get to see them with your eyes. But they did change the banners. Did you see the pictures there?
I did not see the pictures of the banners. But as far as hanging up the old ones, it'd be kind of cool if they like could figure out a way to space them out throughout the concourse. So as you're doing your laps and stuff, you can always look up and see them.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of hoping too. But, again, the arena is not just for hockey. The arena is obviously for other events that they want to bring there. So they have to be careful and selectively position them so they don't get in the way of other things that are important. But I agree with you. Put them on the concourse, put them in a way, because out on the concourse right now, if I remember correctly, if you look up, there's a lot of the American Legion flags and banners. There are things that represent what the arena is supposed to be about also, which is honoring our veterans. So there's a lot of stuff out there. So they have to be careful with it, but I just hope they don't disappear because those banners mean a lot to people like myself who've been around Binghamton hockey for a long time.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And I haven't been around it for a long time, but I do think it should stay.
Now, you guys did not go to the open house, right?
We did not. We were actually out of town at a race.
Which is where you're going after we get done recording this as well. I've been to open houses before for the Sens, even for the Binghamton Rangers back in the 90s. I went to a couple open houses. I think the open houses are a lot of fun for the fans to kind of get to see things. I know they opened up the locker room so you could go in and see the locker room. One of the very cool things that I think that the Black Bears do is, even though we talked last week or last Thursday about let's give the players some space, the Black Bears still open up those doors and they let people in and they let the fans in to their family, so to speak, using Andreas's words, and including the locker rooms. Not every team in every league, not even in the FPHL, not every one of them will open up the locker room doors and let you go in and take pictures and see the plaque boards where they put the pucks up for each season, for each win. The Black Bears have done that for the last couple years with the championship. So I find it very, I love the fact that the Black Bears do that and that the arena was so welcoming to allow them to do that because there's a partnership there.
Yeah, I think the whole base of the Black Bears, from the team to everybody who runs the show, even all the way up to Andreas, I think everybody knows like how much the fans mean to them. Mm-hmm. Like for us as the fans, it's all about the team, and everybody loves Andreas and everybody who works there. So for us, it's all about them. But to them, it's all of us that are making this happen for them. And I think they do an amazing job of showing the appreciation to the fans. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm looking forward to the ice going in and seeing that new logo. I did see in some of the pictures that were posted, they showed the new jerseys as well. The new Night Ranger jersey, which is really going to be the road white for the team, having Binghamton down the front. I like it. I know that's a controversial one because even New York Ranger fans who have the New York running down diagonally, some of them really just don't like it. But I really do like it. And I like seeing the Night Ranger jersey in a white because it just gives another aspect to that jersey. It is, sadly or not sadly or whatever, it's my favorite jersey that the Black Bears have done. I like the Bearhead logo one, but I like how the jerseys are going to look this year. There's going to be some, how do I say it? They're going to look different. All three don't have really any characteristics that are the same.
Yeah, we were kind of looking at the jerseys, and I didn't even have to say anything because he sat there and picked apart and told me what was different about each one and how they were different from last year's jerseys. So we had some time talking about that.
Yeah, so which is pretty cool. All right, so let's get over to the Josh Fletcher interview. We'll put that up. You guys can listen to that. And then on the backside of that, Taylor and I are going to go into some details of that and just kind of really talk about it and break it down for you. So coming up next here on the Power Play Post Show, he is Josh Fletcher. We'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Hi, this is Don Biggs from the 92-93 Binghamton Rangers.
Hi, this is Brandon Bolchinski.
This is Grady Wittenberg, the voice of the Binghamton Senators, and you're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. I am very excited to talk to this gentleman. He's one of my favorite people on the Binghamton Black Bears, and he's got one of the best smiles. He wears the championship belt better than anybody. And I did pick on him a little bit during the celebration about wearing the championship belt, but that's okay. It was all in good fun, and he has got one of the best spirits of anybody on the team. He is Josh Fletcher. Josh, welcome back to the show. It's always great to talk to you, and I'm glad you're here. And I'm glad that the fans are going to get to hear from you before the start of training camp, just see how everything's going. Okay.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for having me, Bob. I'm happy to be back and happy to share how the summer's been and the plans going forward with all the fans.
First, let's give a medical update. How is the shoulder? I know you've been playing hockey over the summer, so that's good. But how is the shoulder feeling?
It's doing a lot better. Obviously, like when I first came back home, I was still weaker because I wasn't using it the same amount as I'm normally using it, and doing PT here back home in Calgary and just strengthening it throughout the summers. It's feeling honestly better than it was before. Like it even got injured. So, no, it feels good. There's still like a tiny little bit of nerve damage, but that's something that just kind of takes a little bit of time to get back, but it's feeling good. I've been taking contact and playing, like you said, been playing lots of hockey in the summer here.
Josh, tell the story. You were, I don't want you to go into too many details. I don't know if this will get you in trouble at all with anybody, but you were wearing a very interesting sleeve to help your shoulder while you were still playing. Tell everyone the story about when I saw you down in the corner and I basically said, hey, listen, I hear you're wearing, a sleeve to help your shoulder and everything. And what did you do? You literally started basically undressing right there in front of me to show me this thing.
Yeah, no, I've had shoulder problems before, but like never to the extent of having to wear like a brace or sleeve for it, really. Mm-hmm. So the last part of the season when I was coming back there from the shoulder injury, it's called a Sully brace. So basically it's just like a wetsuit you strap on around your chest and your shoulder, and then there's bands around it that kind of help stabilize it a bit better and just like keep it in the socket a bit because the labrum in my shoulder is not doing so hot, like with the dislocation. So it's something that just gave it a little bit of extra support and everything. And I wore that the whole time when I came back from the injury, like during the season, and it was two games in playoffs there. But then when I got back home here,
did it help?
Yeah, like it does. It limits your range of motion quite a bit, but helps give you that extra stability and makes it feel like it's locked in there. It didn't take me too long though to take it off when I got home here, league. So there wasn't too much contact in that. So I started getting used to using the shoulder and the full range of motion again. And then near the end of the summer here, I've been doing contact. So just kind of getting used to taking hits without the shoulder brace on, and just like having its own stability back is a lot nicer.
Yeah, and you had no problem, just right there in the corner, just undressing and showing me this thing. I'll be honest with you, it covered a lot more of your body than I thought it was. Was it hard the first time you put it on? Did it feel cumbersome to you?
Yeah, no, for sure. It's because it's right across your chest too, so it's squeezing your lungs quite a bit. So the limited breath and just range of motion, like I said. And I'm a guy that sweats a crazy amount. You can ask anybody on the team, and the first person you ask who sweats the most, they'll say me for sure. So that wasn't fun because it was extra heat.
Yeah,
it's a weird, like I said, material, so it contains so much of that heat. And yeah, just like going to reach for a puck and then your arm kind of gets stuck out there because it was my top hand, right? So it was just kind of getting stuck. But no, yeah, like you said, I didn't have any problem showing you it. It's something so that you had a little bit of a better understanding of what I was playing with. So I did.
And I gotta be honest with you. I want to ask this question because I think the answer could be very interesting. If you were, I don't want to say that injured, but if you were injured like that and you needed to wear that kind of cumbersome type of brace, made you sweat more, made you a lot more hot, why not just take the time off and let it heal normally? What drove you to put that thing on and still go out on the ice?
It's just that hockey player statement, or athletes in general. Sometimes, like, there's a difference between being hurt and injured, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously, I was injured the first couple of weeks there. Like, there was no chance of me getting on the ice, and that's just mentally something as an athlete you kind of got to dissect. And then, as the weeks went on, I realized I was just hurt. So, that my definition of hurt is something you can play through and keep on going. And yeah, like that's why like there was a bigger goal at the end of the line there for me, and that was to help the team in any possible way win a championship. And I was willing to put anything on the line for that.
So you did that for your teammates. That's really what this comes down to, because you do offer an element to your game that other guys on the team could do, but you might do it a little bit better. And that's even sometimes dropping the gloves.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that was my first year in Bing. Just my whole life in hockey. I kind of understood the importance of owning a role. And I'm not saying I'm an enforcer, but like that power forward position, an easy one to fill, especially on the body. Like it's a lot of forechecking, really good, hitting lots, and like you said, dropping the gloves and fighting. And that's something that I've been doing ever since I was 15 years old. So it's just I don't know, it's an appreciated role, and obviously as hockey goes on, it's kind of getting weed out, but something that will always be around. Maybe the enforcer won't be around, but there'll always be a power forward and always be someone that's just looking after the guys and willing to stand up when the bell's rung.
If you could name one player that played with the Flames that you think that you have modeled your playing style after, who's that guy?
Oh, there'd be two that pop up into mind that I've always said. One of my favorite players growing up was Jerome McGinley.
Oh,
He's
of course.
An all-around player.
Yep.
Not saying like I'm probably not even close to as good as him as like skill-based, but he would fight. He was a captain. He was always working his butt off. Like perfect role model for that type of player. And then when I got into juniors, I kind of started to talk to my brother all the time. He's kind of advised me through hockey my whole life. And he was like, you play a lot like Matthew Tkachuk. You need to kind of own that role. Like, be so good and be under people's skin that it just makes them so mad.
Yes.
So.
Well, that's what Zach Sirota is starting to become, right? I mean, that's the kind of player that Zach Sirota is becoming, where when he's out on the ice, he might be even smaller than some of the guys he's going up against, but he gets under their skin, and then they he traps them into penalties because he's out there doing his thing. They get frustrated. That's the kind of player that, Zach Sirota, and I know you're close with Zach too. So on the team, so there's a kind of that mindset there with him as well.
Yeah, fully. Like, and that's something I don't want to say I helped him with, but like we would always talk about that. Like, there's the fine line of getting under people's skin to where maybe you're getting distracted by the game, but
yeah.
Couple months of me being there, I felt like he poured into that role really good, because I kind of came in and showed, like, was part of the third line there, and I think he really liked watching me. Just, this guy's crazy, chirping all the time. He's willing to fight, and then Zach kind of followed suit on that as well, but honestly does a better job than me at it. He gets under people's skin, and then he hops on the ice and he plays hockey, and that's so irritating for other teams. I've played against lots of guys like Zach, and you want to grab them and fight them, but they're out there playing, and then when they're not on the ice, they're getting under your skin. And then between the whistles, he's 100% just focused on the game, playing hockey, and then after, he knows that's his time to start digging, like get under people's skin.
Josh, one of the things, we might have already talked about this, but I want to bring it back up one more time. While you were injured and while Scherzi was in the penalty box for a few games, you got to be behind the bench and really kind of help the guys win some games. I think you're 4-1 in your pro career as a head coach, or as a acting head coach, whatever you want to call it. Talk about that a little bit. How did that feel? What was that like, doing that? Because there were times when you did probably talk to somebody and say, hey, check this out, look for this, that type of thing. What was that like being behind the bench for you?
Yeah, there's a big responsibility for sure. I've done lots of coaching, but I'm coaching 12-year-old kids, 14-year-old kids, not a whole bunch of grown men that I play with. Mm-hmm. So it was definitely a shock to the system when I kind of realized, like, these are my teammates that I'm now acting as a head coach for. And no, like I did get a lot of help. Like me and Sherwood, I would say, like, we've always been best friends, but we became really tight during that time because we were talking so much, like during practices and everything, because I couldn't be on the ice. So it was for me to step in and just kind of see how he coaches and take as much away from him as I could and apply it to how I was coaching. That helped a lot. And then having Tyson on the bench as well, because like I've said before, there's been games where Sherrod might get kicked out and someone has to run the bench, and Tyson does an amazing job of that as well. So I had lots of support doing that. And as the games went on, I got a lot more comfortable with coaching them. And like it was easy for me because we have such a professional group of guys, and they've already, like, we were all on the same page, all have the same thing in mind. We all know the system. So me just having to basically stand there and cycle them through the system made everything a lot easier for me.
What did you learn about yourself in that 5-game stance where you were behind the bench? What was the one thing that you kind of took away from that you learned about yourself?
Honestly, just like a passion and a sight of seeing something I could do past playing hockey.
Love it.
So being able to like kind of step into that role as a head coach, it's something that I've always thought about doing, and kind of like being able to do it, I got a lot more motivation for it. So that's definitely something I want to entertain in the future here, is potentially becoming a head coach one day, and kind of like following, I guess, like kind of Sherwood did, you know what I mean? He played pro hockey for years and then stepped into a pro organization and got to kind of form his own style and everything through the Black Bears. And that's definitely like something I kind of realized that, like, when I talk and stuff to the guys, that I'm listened to and I'm respected. And that's something that's not easy to come across. And I saw the potential in myself to kind of eventually do that. And then I've always known we've had an amazing group of guys, but them making me feel comfortable and, like I said, listening and respecting me with like the decisions I had to make on the bench, that just showed me how amazing of a group we truly did have.
Well, you know what's interesting about the group, and we'll talk a little bit more about how special the group is. Cam Servone also had a shoulder injury, comes back down from the SPHL, first like play that he's actually involved with, gets checked into the boards. A simple, very innocent looking play that probably all of you guys in your careers through junior A, college, and then of course pro hockey have had. He gets an injury, he goes down. His is probably a tiny bit more severe because he could not come back and play, at least. Yet he was around for all of it. He stayed in town. He was there at practices, sometimes up walking laps around the arena. He was there for all the playoffs. He was there on the ice celebrating with you guys. And, I know you didn't play in the last, you only played in 2 games in the playoffs, but the fact that he was there, that you guys wanted him there, says a lot about the character of this team and just a collection of guys that were together. And then of course you guys were like twinsies when it came to shoulder injuries.
Yeah, 100%. Like CC is one of the most genuine guys I've ever met in my life, and his motivation and his determination for hockey and just being a good teammate is unmatchable. I had lots of talks with him. Like you said, we were shoulder twins, both with a broken wing. I could be mistaken, but I think he had the left shoulder, I had the right shoulder.
I think that's right.
Yeah. So, like it was a lot harder on him, obviously. Like he had a pretty severe surgery and everything to get that fixed up. And he had that's like what I was talking about before, like wrapping your mind to the fact that, like, yeah, I'm injured. Like I can't play. This is something that you can't physically play through. Wasn't easy for him. And we had a lot of talks about that. And same going with me. Like I was in the same boat as him, but honestly, it sounds bad, but it gave me a little bit of like hope and peace with my injury. Like that, like, okay, well, it could be worse. We could have not been able to come back. And to see CC stay around like that, and what I mean, support the guys.
Because he could have gone home. I mean, and that's, I think when I saw him a few weeks after the injury, and I said, "Hey, you're still in town? I hear it's pretty bad and everything." He goes like, "Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. I want to be here for the guys. I'm here for the guys," and it just impressed me so much.
No, exactly. He could have went home and he could have had his parents help him take care of him, and he could have watched, but that's not what he wanted. He wanted to be a part of, like, he was a part of this team so much in such a huge way that he knew he had his teammates to help take care of him and help him out with anything he needed. And then also just to be around of it. He earned it and he deserved it. And yeah, you might not be able to play in those last couple games, but it's not just a 7-game playoff, 8-game playoff. It's 56 games in the season, and then you go into playoffs. So he contributed a lot, and he deserved every aspect of staying there. And I know for a fact that was a better decision for him to stick around and also use UHS, which we've been using for our medical. Like, that's you know what I mean? Because then he comes back this year and they already have the history on him. They've already helped him go through the first part of rehabbing that shoulder. So it's going to make it a lot easier for him to come back in this year. And if any issues arise with it, they already know how to kind of help him deal with it.
So I know that you've worked really hard this summer. You've played in 2 summer leagues. One is very competitive, and there's checking in it. And you've also spent a lot of time this year on the ice and maybe even off the ice with Dan Stone. We know that Western Canadian hockey players are tough as nails, right? Just hands down, some of the best NHL players that have come out of Western Canada are tough. They're just tough guys, right? And if you go and you play in Calgary, you have to be tough. Tell me how the quiet, very solid, very straight-faced Dan Stone is tough. Tell me, from what you know about Dan Stone, how he's just a normal, typical, Western Canadian, Calgary tough hockey player. Because sometimes we don't see it, because he is probably the most calm, other than maybe C-Mac. He's probably the most calm guy. Doesn't show a lot of emotion one way or another when he's out there on the ice. But he's got to be tough because he's from Calgary.
100%. Western Canadian boys are always going to be a little bit thicker skinned than most. And that's just from growing up and playing hockey in Calgary. Like, I noticed that going out into, like, even I played hockey in Saskatchewan there for 3 years of junior, and biggest difference coming to the States was the grit side of it kind of gets taken out a little bit.
Sure.
But that doesn't take your toughness away. You can still be a tough hockey player and tough to play against. And I still think to this day, like, Dan Stone's one of the hardest defensemen to play against. We were just on a practice yesterday together and we're doing one-on-ones, and having to go every time I saw him line up against me, I was like, dang, he just has, like you said, he's so composed. He's so straight faced. And it's like, I don't want to call him a stay-at-home D, but he's the most annoying, like, kind of stay-at-home D you ever have to get around. He has a long stick. He has great positioning, and watching him play this year, I believe, like, he's going to blossom again. I told Sherwood this last year, and he came in hot, and then I have a feeling it's going to be the exact same thing this year. Watching the things he's doing on the ice is just crazy, but I think he's tough in the way that he's tough to play against. You can ask anybody on the team. Going against him is not an easy task. It's not that he's going to destroy you. It's just that he's not going to let you around him, and his decisions with the puck are just so good. And a lot of that comes from playing in Calgary, like growing up and playing against that, because the amount of pressure you're getting as a defenseman in those leagues are uncomparable. Like, guys are forechecking like bats out of hell, and something you got to learn how to be calm and composed about, and that's not easy to do as a defenseman. Dan Stone does an amazing job at that.
So I don't know if I've ever asked you this, and maybe I have, and maybe off air or whatever. Did you guys ever play against each other when you were younger?
No, so he's a couple years older than me.
Okay.
So we never had the chance to play against each other. Obviously, our organizations did, because that's a big thing in Calgary. Is he was a North Star, I was a Royal, so we always kind of banter back and forth over that one. But we did do power skating, like, because, like, you just talk throughout time, and I was like, yeah, I did this, like, power skating class. He was like, no way, like, at this rink, like, this time. I was like, yeah. Yep. He's like, we were in the same power skating class, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
So youth hockey for you guys was very similar. However, because of him being a couple years older, you guys just never hooked up and ever at the same time and played on the ice together.
No, never. The first time we met, actually, like, so when I signed the summer going into the first year there, a guy I played with in Humboldt, he came up to me that played with Stone, And he was like, "Oh, you're going to love this guy. Like, he's like exactly like not exactly like me, but like the type of guy like you like to hang out with, chat with. Like, you're going to love this guy." And then first week of me being there, me and Stone clicked really quick. And like I said before, he's one of my best friends in Calgary now. And that's something that Binghamton gave me, was a relationship with him. And that's something I'll take to the grave.
That's kind of, to me, that's one of the coolest things. It's why hockey can be so small sometimes, right? And you could go halfway across North America, well, most of the way across North America, right? I guess, from Calgary to Binghamton, New York, and you meet a best friend that basically lives in the same city as you. And that's just like, to me, that is like one of the cool stories here that has come out of the last few years.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And I'm blessed that I came at the same time as him, and it was both our first year, right? So we were both rookies in the same boat, and something we kind of experienced together. And then we came back last summer, and I was just like, "Hey, Stoner, like, got a couple teams for us to play on. Like, would you want to come play?" And he joined both my men's league teams here. And then we like I said, we first part of the summer, me and Stone see each other like 4 times, 5 times a week. We go golfing, awesome. We go fishing, and then we're on the ice 3 times a week together. So lots of activities together, and that's a friendship. Like I said, that's the type of guy, like, invite to your wedding. That type of friendship I got from him. That's
very awesome, and it's amazing. Before I get to the tough question, what else did you do fun this year in the summertime? Because I've said multiple times, it's like, when hockey players get into camp and their camp starts in October, and then they play through May or maybe even June if you're playing up in the NHL, it's a long season, and you got to dedicate your time and your body and your mind to hockey. So you have to, even though you have to work during the summer and you maybe play in a couple leagues, what did you do that was fun that took your mind away from hockey, even if it was just for a week or a couple weeks?
It sounds silly, but the hockey part was a huge part of having fun. But other than hockey, I love golfing. Like, my goal in the summers is to try to get out at least once a week. So I did a lot of golfing. Me and Stoner went fishing a lot. So like, that was a big part of it too. So there's more relaxing things. So like, golfing and fishing was pretty much how I'd spend my days off and time to relax.
All right, Josh, let's get serious. Are you ready to get serious?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, let's talk about what everybody's waited now about 22 minutes to talk about. The plan is you want to come back, right? But at the moment, you're not sure if you can, correct?
Yes, correct. Basically, like, I want to come back and play really bad. That's something you get the itch every single day about. You think about going back and playing, and there's things that put people out of playing, like creating a family or work, like getting the job opportunities. And like, I got a good job offer here, and I've been doing that. But at the same time, I still have my visa restrictions, so something that I've been kind of battling the last couple of months here, trying to get people to look into and help me through it. So same type of thing that happened to me last year, not being able to get into the States, and something I'm facing again.
And so we may not know until the end of November, kind of like last year. And so the fans, just need to realize that you want to play. Schurzy wants you back. That I know. I mean, I don't even have to ask you about that. I know that. And it's just a matter of trying to figure out the visa issue, which why, for the fans out there who've listened to the Power Play Post Show, we've talked about the B1 visas, the P1 visas, and the difficulty for not just Josh Fletcher, but for all players that play internationally to get back into the country, because the Fed, unfortunately, is a non-for-profit. At the moment, they're trying to change that. They're trying to resolve that issue so guys like Josh can come in and just get the P1 visa, be here for a year if he wants to, because the league will be set up that way. So, Josh, I think the good news that the fans can know is like, well, no, he's not retiring at the moment because he wants to come back. And if he can come back, he's going to.
Yeah, 100%. And like you were saying, like, the B1 visa is just a visitor visa, where like the P1 visa gives you the access to your professional hockey player, right? So that gives you the access for the year, and they don't ever give you an issue at the border with that, and that's like what the SP supplies and everything. So if the Fed did switch over to that, it'd make my life a lot easier. I know it's not the easiest thing to do, but
and they're trying, but there's a lot of things behind the scenes that fans don't know about that have to change within the Fed business model wise for them to do that. And it's not necessarily that the teams need to, declare I'm making a profit, because, certain teams are making a profit and everybody knows it, right? A team like Binghamton, they're doing well. I mean, 4,300 fans showed up and, they're doing well. That's not a problem there. It's other things within that, how they pay whatever taxes that they might have to pay, how they declare themselves to the U.S. government as a business. Those are all the things that are important and determine whether or not a player like Josh can get a B1 visa or a P1 visa, which is for performers and players. And that's very, very important. And all the other leagues have that. Josh, thank you so much for always coming on and just being upfront and honest and open with me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. And one of the things that you and I have talked about multiple times is just how Jersey's brought together so many great character guys. And that's the reason why. Yes, you guys are good on the ice. You guys are skilled. You all have physical talents that are maybe better than other teams. But I don't think other teams realize how close you guys are and how character guys you guys are, how eloquent every single one of the players on that team is. And that's the reason why you guys have won 2 championships, more so than the skill level. It's that because you guys communicate with each other, the friendship, the love that you guys have. As Andreas says all the time, it's a family, and you guys are one of the close-knit families in the league.
Yeah, for sure. And you look at it, it's the locker room that wins the championship. It's not the skill. It's not. It is the skill and it's the hard work, but the most important factor, and I've kind of learned this playing for Binghamton, is it's truly the locker room and the guys that win the championship. Having that group of guys back to Wally, he's never been a part of a team that had so many good guys on it. And that's something Sherwood really built here in Binghamton, is he brought in good guys only, like guys that would just mesh together so well. We never argue, there's never conflict. We're all geared towards one thing, and that's winning it together. And then obviously a natural bond just comes. I loved every single guy that played in the first team. I loved every single guy that played on the second team. And I'm sure a majority of them would say the same thing about every single guy on that team. So it's 100% the team in the locker room that's winning the championship. It's not, you can be as good as you want. You could have a whole team of ECHL players play against us, and we'll still give them a challenge because we're so close and we're willing to do whatever it takes to win for each other.
Josh, could you guys beat on any given day every single SP team? There's 10 of them. So could you beat all 10 SP teams on any given day if you guys were playing your best?
I personally, it's obviously a very biased answer by me, but I personally think the group of guys we have in Binghamton, we have guys that have played in the coast. We have guys that have played years in the SP. I personally think if we were at the top of their game, they were at the top of their game, it would be a very close game, but I believe we could win it. Okay.
So then let me ask you about the ECHL. If you took the bottom 15 teams in the ECHL, or 14 teams, I can't remember exactly how many teams they have in the East Coast League these days, could you guys on your best day beat the bottom 15 teams in the ECHL?
Again, like I said, I believe we can. It's just we have such a close knit group of guys and guys that are willing to do whatever it takes, and we have it's been rinse and repeat for us for the last 2 years here. So running the same systems against them in the matter that we do, I believe that we could take them on as well. I don't know if we would win all 15, but I believe that we could take on a majority of those.
And do well. Okay, so that brings me to this point, and we'll close this out. We'll say our goodbyes, and we'll end this this interview. Kyle Steffen said something that was so profound, and he is I want to get him back on the show again. I want to talk to him and get more of his insight about life and philosophy and playing. Because one of the things that he said, and I put this on Instagram, and I'm pretty sure you've probably seen this. He literally said to me when I was talking to him about whether or not you guys were going to lose a game again, right? And he said, the belief in this room is unmatched. And honestly, that's what I got from the feeling that I talked to any of you guys, especially near the end before the second championship, that the belief in that room was literally unmatched. No matter what people threw at you, whether it was Blue Ridge or Danbury, it didn't matter. You guys believed in yourself so much. And that is probably one of the biggest reasons why you guys were so successful.
Yeah, for sure. And like being at the top there, everybody wants to knock you off. And so we were seeing stuff from every team. Like they were just trying to find a way to beat us, right? Mm-hmm. And the biggest thing, I hate to repeat myself, but the biggest thing is that we believed in every single person that was rostered on that hockey team.
Yeah.
Like you could send out anybody at any moment of time and you'd feel comfortable because you know you've practiced all these situations. You know you've been in them. And the amount of confidence and respect and everything that we had for each other, it doesn't just go away. That you can get down to the last 5 minutes of a game and it's not getting demolished. So the belief in our room was really high, and we have to thank a lot of that to Sherwood. He reassures us all that it's possible, and he doesn't let us get too high or too low. He keeps us right in the middle. Yeah. And he created a great mindset for the whole team.
Absolutely. He is Josh Fletcher. Josh, thank you very much for coming on. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. No matter what, I can't wait to see you again, because I know you'll be in the States at some point because your girlfriend lives in Connecticut. I mean, she's a Connecticut girl. She's a Husky. I say Husky because, the Connecticut Huskies. But so you got to come back to America at some point, no matter what. So it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. And no matter what happens, I'll for sure be in Binghamton again this year or next year. And always, so I have a family there, and it's a place, there's a lot of hockey towns I've been a part of, but Binghamton will always be one. Until I'm 50, 60 years old, I'll be coming back to visit and seeing people that have made an impact on my life.
And just watch hockey too. You can come and watch just a hockey game as well. I mean, that would be great. He is Josh Fletcher. Hopefully we get to see him at the, some point here in the future in a Black Bears uniform. And we'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
If you're a Binghamton hockey fan, then you need to check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your news, stats, information, the Binghamton Hockey Hall of Fame, top 10 lists, profiles, and so much more. That's binghamtonhockey.net. You're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. It is Sunday, by the way, and you might be listening to this Sunday evening or Sunday afternoon. Maybe you're not a big football fan or whatever. Maybe you're a racing fan and you're going to go see a race with Taylor. Who knows? Either way, you might be listening to this on Monday or Tuesday. But during the regular season, we do provide Sunday broadcasts to break down the games. But we wanted to break down maybe an interview. And that's what we decided to do here. You just got to hear Josh Fletcher, and both Taylor and I was really impressed with this interview. I was really impressed with some of the things that Josh said and how he kind of articulated certain things. Taylor, why don't we just get right into it? What were some of your thoughts starting off with this interview?
Right from the beginning, when he starts, you had asked him about his shoulder injury and everything. Just the mentality between knowing the difference between being hurt and being injured, because they always want to play, but you have to know whether you can play through something or whether you need to actually take the time to heal. And I think him talking about the differences between those was a really good point.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That was the first thing that I wrote down. First of all, he said that his shoulder is better than it was before. Okay. So it's stronger, it's healthier. He said wearing the sleeve to help wearing a sleeve to help him keep into place. It's called the Sully brace, which was pretty cool. He had a labrum dislocation, so it crosses even over the chest, but it limits his range of motion and but kept his shoulder in the socket. But what was so interesting, and you hit it right off the nail of the head, was why I asked him, why did he play through the injury? Why didn't he sit out like Cam Cervone, right? He said hockey player mentality to play. The difference of being injured versus hurt. You can play through being hurt, which is different than being injured. I was fascinated with that.
Yeah, that was I think that was the first point I wrote down. I did say that I wrote about his shoulder being better, which everybody hoped for.
Yeah.
But as soon as he started talking about that, I knew that I wanted to bring that up because just the way he talks about it is it's a great point to bring up.
Because hockey players are known for this, right? They're known to be injured and or have some sort of, they're not 100%, right? And yet they'll still go out there and play a game. And that's because Josh was really trying to help us to understand the difference between being injured or playing hurt, or being hurt and being able to play through that pain, which I thought was pretty good.
Yeah, the next point that I had written down was him talking about being a power forward.
Yeah. Which
you kind of, hinted about when you introduced the interview for him. I thought that was a very interesting take on kind of eliminating enforcer roles. Because that's pretty much a dying breed at this point. But enforcers weren't necessarily playing hockey. They were there to protect somebody else. And I think the power forward and the way that he described it, I think that is very much a role that fits him and a certain hockey player. And I think it's true. I think a power forward is that's replacing the enforcers.
Yeah, because what it does is it allows the guy to go in who can play hockey really well. See, Josh Fletcher will go in and take faceoffs. He will forecheck when needed and play that role pretty well. But then at the same time, he has the skill set, Taylor, right, to go and drop the gloves. And I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, just the way that he talked about that and kind of like owning his own role and stuff, and knowing when to kind of poke around and when not to. He said that there's a very fine line, and I think that's also a very good point. For the most part, I would say pretty much every game that I've seen the Black Bears play, for the most part, I believe that they know the difference between that fine line and, like when they overstep.
Yeah.
And they probably shouldn't have said something or shouldn't have done something. There's a couple players on some other teams that I can't necessarily say the same about. I won't name any names, but I'm sure we're all thinking the same people.
I have a few in my head. Yep. So absolutely. And what's interesting about that is, I always talk about, like, there was a player that was on the Binghamton Senators. His name was Mark Borowiecki. He was a defenseman. I always talk to him about how do you know how to play to that edge without falling off the edge? And falling off the edge means you do something really stupid on the ice that you're going to regret or that it hurts the team. And that's part of what Josh was talking about there. Getting up to that edge, maybe not crossing that thin line, so to speak, right? To use a couple different phrasings for that. But I think it's really important. And part of that is, and we haven't talked about it yet, because it's something that he kept going to throughout the whole interview, was Brant Sherwood. Now, Brant Sherwood totally, at times, I don't want to say crossed the line, but he definitely played with the border of that line on whether or not he was going too far. Now, sometimes he was doing it to stick up for a teammate, or he was just trying to create some energy because he was a third line, fourth line kind of player on most of the teams he played on. But Brant knows where the line is, where the edge is. And I think that the reason why, Josh doesn't go over it too often is because of Brant Sherwood. And he brought Brant Sherwood up a lot during this interview.
Yeah, Brant is like the top tier for all of these guys. They look up to him so much, and he's brought up several times in several ways. And it's just like, if they're going to talk about something, they're probably referencing something that Brant Sherwood is doing.
One of the other things right around the time that he was talking about this, I did ask him, about being a Calgary Flames fan and what his favorite player was. And it kind of played into the power forward type of role that he likes to play. He said that Jerome Ignalia and then Matthew Tkachuk get under the skin of opposing players. And that transitioned in him to talk a little bit about Zach Sirota, because I brought up Zach Sirota and that how he's developed that skill as well, which is to get under the skin of guys, antagonize them a little bit, but not go over that edge, and really kind of, help create opportunities for the team.
Yeah, I think Zach Sirota was the perfect example for that. But I also think another thing, you and I had sort of talked about it off air for this past show, about everybody on this team is always smiling except for like Connor McAnanama or like Dan Stone. But everybody else, it doesn't matter what is happening, they are going to walk away smiling. And I think that irritates the other team more than anything else does.
Yeah. I totally agree. All right, what else do you got?
When he went into talking about acting head coach, which I thought was it was an interesting story to begin with, just because Josh seems like he just seems like he's a really fun dude. Yeah. So to watch him kind of take on that responsibility and actually like execute it really well, but then he goes in to say that he basically wanted to mirror Brant Sherwood in that way. And the other really important thing that I loved about him being the acting head coach was that he had all of the support from the players and from Tyson, and that they were all respecting him and listening to him as if he was the true head coach. And I think that's something that's really important about this team. Because
it really reflects on Brant, right? If you think about it, if Brant is that way with the players and Josh is trying to emulate Brant, the players easily kind of adapted to Josh being there, and, because they respect Brant. They respect Josh. They understand where it's coming from. It's not coming from a place of, well, I think I know better because I'm now the acting head coach. It's because they've heard some of the things that he was saying already before from Brant. So there is, Brant has kind of started to teach Josh Fletcher on how to become a head coach. I found this very interesting. He said, first of all, it was a big responsibility. He said Sherwood and he talked a lot about this, okay? And he said it was easy for him because they have a very professional group of guys. All I think are key because it goes back to what he mentioned a couple different times, Brant Sherwood.
Yeah, I think that the way that everybody looks up to Brant Sherwood and the fact that Josh being able to take that role and performing well in it gave him the better idea, because he had talked about in his interview about if he's not going to be playing, that he would like to coach someday, and that stepping into that role kind of gave him a sense of that, and he really enjoyed it. And I think it truly does stem from Brant Sherwood. I truly think that he is the top of all of anything that we're going to talk about. It's going to come back to and lead to Brant Sherwood.
Yeah, because I asked him the question about what did you learn about yourself being behind the bench? And he goes, I have the passion to be a head coach, and now that's what he wants to do after his playing days. I was like, okay, check that off the box. That is something very cool that, I'm glad to hear that, right? Because I thought, there's a guy like Kyle Steffen who I think is really smart. I think he knows the game really well. His passion isn't to be a head coach, right? But Josh is. But Josh's mindset is maybe a little bit more like Brant Sherwood's than like Kyle Steffen's. So I thought it was very interesting.
Yeah, I think as far as that aspect, I think it all just comes down to the mentality. Josh very much still has a huge love of the game. He wants to be here and play more than anything. Yeah. Where Kyle, you could definitely tell with the way that Kyle was talking that he was ready. Like he's had enough of it. He wants to kind of explore the different part of life that doesn't revolve around the rink. And I think that that does eventually reach to some of the players. They kind of eventually, want to break out of that. But to some of these guys, it's this or nothing, and this is what they're going to do.
Yeah. What do you think about the conversation about the injury, and because we delved a little bit more into the injury as we talked about Cam Cervone?
I thought what I had written down, I didn't write a lot about it because I just kind of like left it in my head and thought it more as I kind of after listening to the interview. Which again, it comes back to the team that Brant Sherwood has built, is that Cam was injured. He wasn't able to play.
Mm-hmm.
He actually he needed surgery injured and he stuck around. And you had talked about it and Josh had talked about it. And it shows how much these guys are such a tight, close family that he didn't even want to leave and go home and fix his injury. Like he wanted to be here. He wanted to be here for the team.
Yeah, and the obviously UHS, who is a big supporter of the Black Bears, they know Cam's situation, and they were able to work with him the whole time here. He could have gone home, as Josh said, could have gone home and let his parents take care of him. But instead, he stayed here with the team all the way through. And I remember standing there on the ice talking to Cam after they won the championship, and all he said to me, he goes, I want to be back here next year to go through this whole process with this team and win their third championship. So he's, Cam's so involved in there, but I just felt that I had to ask Josh about the injury that Cam had because it was similar. One was on the left side, one was on the right side. One was more severe than the other. Josh Fletcher still had to put on an outfit essentially that made him sweat more. That was one of the things early in the interview he said. He goes, he sweats the most on the team. I don't know if we needed to know that, but I love the fact that we know that now. For some reason, it's just weird. It's like, all right, who's got the strangest laugh? Okay, it's that guy. All right, we know that Josh Fletcher sweats the most on the team.
Yeah, I also like the point that he brought up about. Well, there's 2 points actually. The first one was him saying that because Cam stuck around and he dealt with UHS, that if something were to happen this upcoming season, UHS knows how to deal with it or knows how to help him or can get him whatever he needs to be able to work through his whatever's going on. Mm-hmm. And then the other point that he had brought up was that it kind of made him realize that his injury could have been worse. Like he could have had to sit out for these games and he gets the chance to play.
Yeah.
Through his injury.
Yeah.
He kind of had a better appreciation for the fact that it wasn't worse, I guess.
Yeah, because he was watching his teammate, his friend, not be able to go through it. Now, speaking of friends, the next thing we kind of really delved into a little bit, unless I'm missing something, was about his friendship with Dan Stone, which again, I wouldn't have thought, but they're both from Calgary, so they're both going back to Western Canada for the summer and whatnot. But there were a lot of really great things that he talked about when he talked about Dan Stone.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this part of the interview because it just kind of goes to show how small of a world hockey really is.
Yeah.
I mean, they're both from the same area, but Dan is a little bit older than Josh, so they didn't actually play when they were younger together. But it's the fact that they're on the same team now. They get to go home and be pretty much best friends. I mean, Josh said that he's the kind of guy that you have in your wedding. Yeah. And I think that's a huge staple.
It is.
But I also absolutely loved the fact that he said the most annoying stay-at-home D you have to get around.
Yeah.
There was something about the way that he said that because he's like, I hate going against him in practice or when you're playing a league against him and stuff. And it just goes to show that Dan Stone is probably one of the quietest guys on the team if I had to pick somebody.
Yeah.
And he's just so good at what he does.
Exactly. That's exactly what I got out of it. When he said he will not blow you up, but you will struggle getting around Stone, that's all I needed to hear. That is classic old school defenseman, playing defense, protecting that goaltender. And you know what? Try to get around me. Just try to get around me. That's exactly one of the big things I took out of that. It was such a great statement by him by saying he's not going to blow you up, but you're going to struggle getting around him. I thought was really impressive because, again, we've talked about this. Dan Stone is probably now the best stay-at-home defenseman in the league and probably arguably could put him up as one of the better defensemen unless somebody steps up on one of the other teams that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, I kind of had talked about that too because I was going to make the point that even Josh thinks that Dan's going to be even better this season.
Yeah.
And that he's going to play better, which is just impressive because we already think the world of Dan and his abilities on the ice.
Yeah, I totally agree. Any other thoughts about? I mean, I love the fact that they are, basically best friends. They're fishing, playing on a two men's leagues that basically Josh called him up and said, "Hey, do you want to play on these teams?" And now Stone's playing on those two teams with them during the summertime, which I think is important. What fans don't understand, and maybe Josh cleared it up for me. I thought you would get away from hockey as much as you could in the summertime because you dedicate so much of your life to it. And he said, no. Playing those games and during the summertime are fun. That's part of my fun. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I really wrote down hockey players play hockey for fun for one of my points, because I know all summer long, Steve McAnanima has messaged me that, Connor was playing in a league, or Connor had a tournament, or Connor was doing this. And it was always hockey related. He's like, I haven't seen him much. He's, he's playing this game or he's doing that game. And so just to hear that other players are essentially doing the same thing.
Yeah.
One, to stay, in shape, on top of the game and all that stuff, but they're also just doing it for fun. Like, that's how much they love this game, is that's what they do all year long.
Yeah. A lot of golf and a lot of fishing was fun for them as well, but playing in those games together. And it was just a great conversation about Dan Stone.
Yeah, it was definitely. It's always nice because we don't really hear about Dan Stone too much. Because again, he's very quiet.
And he was on the show once, and so far that's it. I haven't had many conversations with Dan. Like, every once in a while he'll look at me and he'll actually say hi. You're like, oh, hey Bob, and that's it. That's it. He's just a quiet guy that goes out there and does his business. But it seems like to me every single one of his teammates love him.
I mean, I don't blame him. I'd love him too if I had him as a defenseman. So,
now the next point I have written down, and it's my last point, but I know there was more to the interview, and I'll ask you about it. But here's the part of the interview where I said, "Listen, let's get serious, right? The plan is that he wants to come back, but he's not sure if he can." He wants to be here in Binghamton, but he's got visa restrictions, right? He may not know until the end of November again, but clearly he said, I am not retiring. It's not my plan to retire. I plan to be here in Binghamton. He will come back if he can. What did you take out of that part of the interview?
I kind of saw it coming. I mean, we had this issue last year, and so I did sort of already foreshadow this happening again. I remember it was kind of like a panicky situation last year. We wanted to get him here in time, and there was a lot of like back and forth about how they were going to get it done. So this year, I feel like they're going to be a little more prepared in like how they have to go about it to hopefully get it all situated.
Yes.
But I do think it just brings up another important issue about the P1 visas and everything like that.
Yeah, and honestly, fans, that's why the league is trying to make some of the changes they have. So a guy like Josh Fletcher, who wants to be here, who wants to play, who needs to cross the border, can do so. But, to make all the fans who love him, I mean, listen, every player has crazy, wacko fans, and I'm one of them, okay? I'm like that with some players as well in hockey. I'm probably like that with some musicians as well. But where you're just so crazy, you want to know every little bit of thing that's going on. And we wish we could say, oh, Josh will be here at training camp. He wants to be here at training camp. But unfortunately, because of the visa restrictions and everything that's going on in the world, especially in the U.S., he can't chance it. He can't just sneak across the border. I know Dan Stone would put him in the back of his pickup truck and then kind of get him over here or whatever. But if he could, but it just doesn't work that way. So hopefully he can get over here and do that. Now, one of the kind of the little notes that I know you know about, at the end of November, Josh gets his B1 visa, for 6 months and comes in. Where does Josh fit in at the end of November if he gets back over across the border? Taylor, that's probably the hard part. And when we talk a little bit about Josh and Brant Sherwood, you said to me almost immediately when we talked about this for a few minutes just before we started recording, the that decision is so hard because you're going to have some guys here playing in about maybe 15, 20 games before Josh gets here, and then a decision has to be made, and nobody wants to make that decision.
Yeah, I definitely, because either way, no matter what happens, so if Josh comes and somebody gets kicked off the team, he's already going to have a fan base. They're going to be mad because that kid was playing well, and he's going to get, he's might end up somewhere else. And it's always a hit and miss battlefield when it comes to players coming and going on this team. That's why I said right off the bat, I'm so glad that I'm not Brant Sherwood that has to make these decisions. He does it so flawlessly usually. People there, it's usually questionable sometimes, when something happens with a beloved player, whatever the situation might be, he leaves, and there's usually a lot of upset fans for a little while, but it hasn't been an issue as far as the team playing better.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, it hasn't, but I don't want to make that decision. I don't want to have to make that decision. It's why I'm not a head coach of an FPHL team or any team in that regards, because there are always cuts that have to be made. And I think it takes a special type of person to be able to do that and then move on from that and know it's just part of the job. So interesting part of the conversation, definitely with Josh. What else do you have written down?
Another point that he had brought up was, and again, it all stems back to Sherwood.
Yeah.
Is the locker room wins the championship.
Yeah.
When he said that, I think it's a very important statement. Because it all stems back to that's the team. It's not just one person scoring goals.
No.
It's not just one goalie making saves. It is the entire team, and it is the mentality that is in that locker room. Because the other fan bases, I would say, might think that Binghamton comes in cocky or overconfident, and I don't see that. I do think that they have the most confidence, but I do not think that they are cocky about it.
I don't think so either. It really.
I think they come into a game and they know the ability that they have, and they execute that, and then they move on.
Yeah, and yeah, you know what? Yapping happens all the time in games. So if we go back to the Blue Ridge series, the Blue Ridge kept saying, "Well, the Black Bears were bragging and they were cocky on their bench, and they kept yapping." I was like, yeah, and it worked. It took you guys off of your mental game, and you guys blew up in the third game, the beginning of the third period, because you were losing. You were losing at that point 4-0, right? And all that did was got a bunch of guys kicked out of the game, and you still lost. So it's not a victory for that. But it doesn't mean that they are overconfident. It doesn't mean they're cocky. They won 49 games last year. Then they won the if anything, the one team that I would say got one on the Black Bears was Port Huron in the playoffs, right? That one game that they won up in Port Huron, give it completely up to Port Huron. They beat them 8-6 in a barn burner earlier in the season, and then they turned around and they won that one game in the playoffs. But Blue Ridge didn't get one up on the Black Bears. Even though they beat them to break the 18-game win streak, they didn't really beat them in the sense of mentality, because the Black Bears immediately turned around, won again on Sunday, even through the whole craziness with the line brawls, and then kept winning. So you didn't have one up on them. But I'll give Port Huron that one game in the playoffs. They played well. They did what they had to do, and then the Black Bears turned up the Jets after that.
Yeah, I think the big difference there is there's a lot of teams that like to chirp Binghamton.
Yeah.
And it gets them nowhere. You might think that you're getting under their skin, but as you and I talked about all the time, Tyson will literally walk away with a smirk on his face every second you see him. He has a smirk on his face. It doesn't matter what's happening on the ice. He's going to smirk.
Yeah.
And I think Port Huron came in knowing that they weren't going to get to us by chirping, and that they needed to play better hockey than us, and that's what they did. they came in and played our game better than us, and it worked for them.
Yeah, for that one game. Game, it did. And then the Black Bears made the changes that they did. They brought in, that's when they brought in Chris Mott back into the series, things of that nature. They changed it up, and that's how Brant Sherwood figures out what's going on. Like when he loses, he studies that loss more than he studies the wins, because studying the losses gives you that. Now, again, it comes back down to Brant, the way he does his games. So it's a very good point. And I agree. And I think I brought up during the interview where Kyle Steffen said that the belief in the room is unmatched, right? And it plays right into what Josh said there, which was pretty good. What other points do you have?
Just kind of the locker room stuff. I mean, they talk about that there's such a close-knit family and that there's no drama, there's no conflicts in the locker room, which I think is a huge thing. Because you hear from other fan bases, you'll hear about, little things that happen in the locker room between players. And that's not something that you want for a team, because it just makes it hard to play together and mesh well.
Yeah.
There was a player that we had talked about before, I think a lot of the signings had happened, that Sherwood had said that he's selfish on the ice, and you never really caught on to it, and I did.
Yeah.
And so I agreed with Sherwood on that point. And if you watch teams like that, where you focus on a certain player, you can kind of see where they don't mesh well. Where there's some issues in either the way the lines are, or just the teammates in general, where you can see that it's not as fluid as it is in Binghamton.
Or the chemistry is just not right.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Give me your final thoughts on the interview.
My final thoughts is I think he ended it pretty well by saying, spin, rinse, and repeat.
Well, what did they say? 2 is a fluke, 3 is a streak, something like that. Yeah. So,
yep.
Listen, I hope we can do some more of these type of kind of interviews where I do the interview, you get to listen to it, and we can kind of break it down a little bit. I think that will be a lot of fun throughout the season when we can do that with certain interviews. I think that would be a very cool thing. Fans, Sunday evenings, you're going to get the breakdowns of the games from us. We're really excited about the season starting. I can't believe, Taylor, that we're 19 days away now.
I know. I was just talking that we were still in the 20s, and now we're under 20, and it's just, I feel like it's just flying at this point.
It really is. The guys are going to be at training camp. I mean, October 1st, a lot of the guys are going to be here. If they're not already here, they're going to be coming in this week as we're talking right now. So the 22nd through the 27th, they'll be coming in. There are events and things for them to do. They have to get acclimated. I know Mac Jansen is already here because he's got kids in school, or Bondarenko does. One of the two. They're both here either way. They're already living here. And so we're that close. We're getting even closer. Obviously, the preseason hockey game will be on the 3rd, and then just 1 week later will be the basically the start of the regular season. The new banners will go up. The new banner for the division championship, that's already up there for this year. But the new championship banner will be up for the Commissioner's Cup. That'll be raised October 10th. So a lot of great stuff coming up. We're getting that close. And then pretty much games. It'll be, Taylor, throughout this whole season for the Black Bears. I don't know if you looked at the schedule. I kind of looked at it and broke it down. Basically, there are going to be 2 games basically a week. You're going to have the odd Wednesday night game twice for the 2 holiday games, but otherwise it's Friday, Saturday, Friday, Saturday, Friday, Saturday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, it's like full season too. Like there's no weekend off too, right?
No weekend off. So this year, I think I like that. Again, the only weird thing about playing only 56 games and playing only 2 games a week sometimes is like when you play in the AHL or the NHL, when you have 3 games in a week, whether it be like Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, or maybe it's Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, something, whatever combination it is to get the 3 games in so they can get up to the 82, 84 game schedule. you play all your goalies a little bit more. And so that's always the trick in the Fed with only 56 games. You know, if you play Connor both games, great for Connor. He gets in a flow, but not so great for Eggy. If you play one goalie on Friday and one goalie on Saturday, they're both kind of like, oh, I got a game in, but does that get them into a flow? Hardest part, I think, of minor pro hockey, handling the players, is the goaltenders with minimal games.
Yeah, this is just another point of I'm so glad that I am not Brant Sherwood.
Fair enough. But again, we can also finalize really the Josh Fletcher interview. He brings up Scherzy so many times. He really does.
Yeah, I think truly Brant, I've talked to him a handful of times, like at Tully's, like, because Jeremy always tries to get autographs there, and he always wants Brant's autograph, and he always goes, go to the guys, get their signature. Aww. And so I don't know if Brant truly knows like how important he is, or like how high everybody is talking about him. Like if he knows that, or if he's just kind of like, this is my team, like, just kind of, he doesn't want to take the spotlight from them kind of thing.
No,
it's so amazing to watch him do this with this team.
Yeah, I agree. All right. We're going to end this. The Power Play Post is available on all major platforms, podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcast, Pocket Cast. Wow, I can't talk now. YouTube, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on your favorite app, and don't forget to subscribe. Join the conversation on Facebook. Search Power Play Post Show and become part of our community. Go to binghamtonhockey.net, your go-to source for stats, history, and all things Binghamton hockey. Thank you to Rob Lepolis, our MC, John Petitucci, our music director, and from the Binghamton Black Bears, he's now a power forward, Josh Fletcher. I am Bob Howard. She is
Heather Welch.
And we'll talk to you next time, this upcoming Thursday, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Power Play Post Show. Be sure to tune in next week to the Box Studios Radio Network for all the latest Black Bears news and interviews from around minor league hockey. The Power Play Post Show would like to thank John Patitucci for all the music you hear on the show. You've been listening to the Power Play Post Show.